I got a little sad this summer, so we're gonna talk about my top 10 favorite Nintendo DS games for nostalgia purposes. Hey, hi, hello, it's me. It's been a little bit, almost a month since my last video. I kind of took a bit of a summer vacation, if you will, amid still working and doing all of the adult things, but I'm back, and probably back to normal uploads from here on out until the next time I disappear for a little bit. A lot of the time during the summer, I get very melancholic and nostalgic for gaming days gone by, especially memories involving the Nintendo DS. So I kind of figured, what a better video to come back to than talking about my 10 favorite Nintendo DS games from over the years. Hi everybody, my name's Alex, aka Quality, and welcome back to the channel. Also, if I look like I'm dying, I am. It's like 90 degrees outside and my room has terrible AC, so uh-oh. Now, as a disclaimer, I am not saying these 10 DS games are the best end-all be-all Nintendo DS games of all time. I am not qualified to come up with a list like that. No, these are simply 10 games that make me happy for the Nintendo DS, and that's what they are, in some semblance of an order, I guess. So if you're upset that this list does not include your number one favorite game on the DS, Nicktoons Battle for Volcano Island, I'm sorry. I didn't think this game was very good. But that's even more reason to let me know in the comments some of your favorite Nintendo DS games. I know this is a very special console for a lot of people, myself included, and I think it's fun to reminisce on some of our childhood favorites, or maybe favorites we discovered later on in life. Starting off with a silly one, but the more I looked at my DS collection, the more I was like, I gotta include it. It's just too silly to me. And that is Elite Beat Agents. Now, if you haven't played Elite Beat Agents, it's a rhythm game where the stylus is heavily involved. You have numbers that you have to tap at the right time when the circle kind of closes around them, or balls that you roll on a track. But I think what one of the funniest things about this game is that the music is all like 80s, 90s, early 2000 hits, which I'm wondering, maybe the instruction manual has the track list. Oh yes, it does. Oh yes, it does. It's got such hits such as Skater Boy, Material Girl by Madonna, the YMCA, September, Jumpin' Jack Flash, Believe by Cher. There's a lot of wonderful hits in this game, and they're all covers of those songs, obviously, but I just think it's so funny. Not only that, but this game, I think I talked about it in the games that made me cry video, but Elite Beat Agents made me sob. So in the game, you're going through missions, and each mission has a different song and a different problem that you as the Elite Beat Agents are trying to solve. And there's a Christmas episode that just kills my soul every freaking time. It's insane. The first time I saw this game was my older cousins were playing it, which they were a huge inspiration to a lot of the games I was buying at that time. But I saw my older cousins playing this game and I thought it looked so fun. And yeah, then the Christmas episode, I was like, what is this game? But it's just a really fun, lighthearted rhythm game. There's not much depth here, but it is really fun. I actually played it again somewhat recently just because I was feeling the urge, and it was really good to get back to it. And there's different difficulty levels, and I'll be honest, some of the higher range difficulties do get kind of hard, especially when like the touchscreen on my DS is kind of old at this stage, so it's losing sensitivity, which is kind of interesting. So it's really hard to play this game now on my original DS. But I love Elite Beat Agents. It's just such a weird DS experience, but so pivotal to that time for me that, yeah, it's a special memory. Next up, we have New Super Mario Bros., one of my first games that I had for my DS. I can't remember if I've actually talked about this when I was doing my DS collection, but I wanted a DS so badly, just like everybody else my age, but I specifically wanted the pink one. I wanted the coral pink one so bad because I was like, I want to be unique. I didn't even like pink at that age. I was very anti-pink. I was like, I'm a tomboy. I like red. But more than that, I wanted to be special, so I wanted the pink one. And we couldn't find it anywhere. So my parents' plan was to get me a DS for my birthday, which is in January, and they couldn't find it anywhere. And they were like, well, we can get you a different color, or we can try to really hold out for a pink one. I was like, I want to hold out for a pink one. But my grandparents thought I already had the DS, so they ended up getting me New Super Mario Bros. And the first Pokemon Ranger game, which is just also a wonderful game. But New Super Mario Bros. Really stuck with me for a long time. This is one of my most played 2D Marios. Honestly, I think I was claiming to it was my favorite up until Wonder, because Super Mario Bros. Wonder is just so good. But I loved this game. I'd always take it with me. This was like a vacation staple for me, if even just for the mini games. Even though I beat this game as a kid, I definitely spent more time playing blackjack with Luigi than anything else. I don't know why, but this game really taught me a lot about how to play poker. I just also thought it was so much fun. This was the first of the new Super Mario Bros. Installments, so it felt new, unlike the future installments of the new Super Mario Bros. Series. But yeah, this one was really special. I loved the Mega Mushroom, thought that was fun. The worlds were cool. The music, it was like that first listen of like the nostalgic DS music. Like the music in this game will stick out in my brain absolutely forever, which is just, it's kind of fun. But yeah, another DS classic for me for sure. Now, a game I recently reacquired after owning it as a kid and then giving it away to my cousin, and then I don't know whatever happened to it after that. Animal Crossing Wild World. Now, I have gone on record so many times, my favorite Animal Crossing game will be New Leaf for the foreseeable future. But Wild World was great because I didn't have the original Animal Crossing on the GameCube until recently, so this was the closest I got to the original intent of the villagers being total jerks to you, and I loved it. I don't know. Why do we all have such nostalgia for little animals being so mean to us and bullying us? I don't know, but it really, it does something, you know? But this was great because a few of my friends had this too, so going to each other's towns was really, really fun. It was one of those first big moments of connection on the DS for me, for sure. And even though I had no idea what I was doing, this is not like my New Horizons or New Leaf town at all. My original Wild World town was garbage. It was not good. I didn't really do anything, and like that was obviously before that you could add stuff to the exterior of the world and not just your house, but like my house sucked. I don't think I ever paid off my debts. I was just kind of bopping around the world talking to villagers and stuff, and that was about it. But it was always fun. Yeah, messaging friends, playing hide and seek in Wild World. It was a good time. So I have a lot of memories with this, and I'm really glad to have it back in my collection because it was the only Animal Crossing I had been missing for a while. So yeah, it's nice to have this one back, even though I don't know if I'll ever really go back to playing Wild World. Maybe for nostalgia purposes, who knows. Now, a truly more recent addition to my DS collection, but a game that really kind of struck me in like a great way, and I fell in love with it. Hotel Dusk Room 215. I actually just talked about this game in my games I've played and beaten this year video, but this game really stuck out to me. It reminded me of all of the nostalgia that I had playing Professor Layton, or even though I didn't play any of the Phoenix Wright games on the DS, playing the Phoenix Wright games on the Switch, it just kind of felt in that category of game for me, which, I mean, makes sense. It's a mystery game. This game heavily utilizes the DS in different ways, such as having to close the DS in order to solve a puzzle, using the microphone to blow into things. Even just having to hold the DS like a book was just like fascinating to me. And I always remember seeing this at like Best Buy or Toys R Us, but never really feeling the need to pick it up because I had other big hitting games like Animal Crossing or Mario or Pokemon. But this game was one of my favorites I've played this year so far. The story of this game is definitely a lot deeper than I was anticipating and a lot more well thought out. Everything is interconnected with one another, and the conclusion is very satisfying in my opinion. I'm really excited to eventually pick up the sequel, The Last Window, but hopefully I can get my hands on that soon. That's a big search for me, but yeah, this game was great. I love Kyle Hyde as a protagonist. He's moody and brooding, but at the core of it, he just really wants the truth. He's not a protagonist that I would usually like relate to, and I don't even think relate is the right word, but just like really empathize with, but I loved him. I thought he was great. All the characters are really interesting. All of them have their own stories and histories, and yeah, this game is great. If you love a good mystery game and you love visual novels, try to pick this one up. It's really not that expensive to find, honestly, to find a physical copy of it if you want one. Yeah, highly recommend. I'm so glad to finally have this in my collection. Now, this next one is honestly a really, really special to me. I think we're on 6 I've lost count. The numerical system doesn't really matter. All of these games are great, but this one, yeah, this one is really special. Final Fantasy IV. Now, Final Fantasy IV was not my first Final Fantasy. I played a remake of Final Fantasy I on the PSP, first and foremost. So that was my first experience with the series, but Final Fantasy IV is where I fell in love with JRPGs in general. This version of the game is a little weird because it's got kind of silly 3D graphics for the DS. Like, it's very of the time, but the story and the characters of this game just immediately took me away when I was growing up. When I was playing Final Fantasy I, obviously you don't really have a ton of personality to the characters you're playing as, they're kind of just there. So I would write my own stories about those characters and try to kind of fill in the blanks. But with these guys, they were all fully developed characters. They were all interesting and silly and just had very interesting relationships with one another that I'd still write stories about them, obviously, but it was just cool to have a full cast. And I think that's what really drew me into it and was like, oh my gosh, there's more to a turn-based RPG than just the combat. We also have these actual parties of characters. And I do love in this game too, they have these beautifully animated cutscenes right at the start. The rest of the game does not look like that, but but starting out like that, it just made my imagination go wild thinking that's what these characters look like. And I mean, I was like honestly moderately disappointed when I got into the actual game and they were more chibi style, but it was fine. It was fine. Also fun because as a kid, this was like the hardest video game I had played at that point in time. Obviously, I was still unfamiliar with the genre as a whole, but yeah, it gave me a lot of determination, like, oh my gosh, I have to get good at this, I have to grind, which wasn't always the most fun, you know. I think any RPG fan can relate to that. Grinding is not always fun. And it wasn't when I was a kid. I was like, get me moving with the story. I want to see more of these characters. But it did give me an appreciation for it in a weird way. I don't know why, because I was like, I want to be good at this game. And I was. And I was. But if you are a Final Fantasy fan and somehow have not played 4 in any capacity, I don't know if I necessarily recommend the DS version. There's so many different iterations, especially the more recent Pixel remaster. You might as well play it on one of those, but for nostalgic purposes, the DS version of Final Fantasy IV will always have a place in my heart forever. Another more recent addition to my actual collection, but a game that I did play on the DS, and I think people might be a little frustrated that this is not my #1 game of this spread, but the whole reason it's not, this is one of the best games of all time, in my opinion. I adore this game, I love everything this game is about, but I didn't really grow up playing it, and I don't really associate the DS with it too much because it came out on another console first, and that is Chrono Trigger. That all said though, I do think the DS version is my personal favorite way of playing Chrono Trigger. I just think the UI works pretty darn well. I love the cutscenes. It's great. The DS version of Chrono Trigger is fantastic. But yeah, I didn't have this growing up. It was, again, another one of those games that I'd always see at Best Buy or GameStop or Toys R Us, and I wouldn't grab it because I'd be getting Battle for Volcano Island. But when I was in high school, the guy I was dating at the time really wanted Chrono Trigger. And if you can believe it, think back to the ripe year of 2013, the DS version of Chrono Trigger was like 20 bucks. You wanna know how much I paid for this one? $100. And depending on where you look, it's even more than that. So I got him a copy of it, and I did end up playing it, and that's why I know I like this version so much. And yeah, Chrono Trigger, I don't know what else I can say about it that hasn't been said for years and years and years, but this is a pinnacle RPG. It's just so much fun. The battles are fun. The characters are memorable. Soundtrack fantastic. The locations are gorgeous. And I also think that just this game coming to the DS was a great idea. Because I'm not saying it wasn't great on the SNES. Obviously, it was. But the DS just lent itself so well to this game. And yeah, I loved it so much. And it adds a few things too. It's got a new dungeon, it's got a multiplayer arena, which is crazy. It's so weird. I didn't really experience that because I didn't know anybody else that had it, but yeah, it was a cool thing. So I'm really glad to have this in my own collection now because I will be revisiting this eventually, but I feel like I could not add it onto this list of some of my favorite DS games. It's one of my favorite games of all time. It's just not number one of this list because of nostalgia reasons. But what is on this list because of nostalgia reasons? Harvest Moon DS Cute. Now, there is a surplus of Harvest Moon games on the DS. We were eating well back in that time, but Harvest Moon DS Cute was the first of those that I personally had. At this point in time, I had played more Friends of Mineral Town and Another Wonderful Life and Magical Melody to the ends of the earth. But this was my first DS one. And it was always interesting to me because when I got this game, I was expecting like, oh, cool, 3D, cool DS graphics. Nah, the graphics are basically Friends of Mineral Town, but with your characters from A Wonderful Life. It was like this crazy clash of worlds I wasn't anticipating. But what really made this game memorable for me, which I've talked about in my video game crushes video, the Phantom Thief, Sky. He wasn't all. I did love some of the touchscreen features, like being able to pet your animals and care for them in a more, like, involved way than just pressing an A button. I always thought that was fun, and it was kind of cool to be able to put all of these characters into one space. If you had more Friends of Mineral Town, you could put that in the GBA slot and you'd get all of those characters in the game as well. Honestly, this Harvest Moon is huge. Like, there's so many characters. There are so many romance options, especially when you combine the two games. It takes all the people in A Wonderful Life and Another Wonderful Life that you thought about, like, what would it be like if I married this character, and makes that a reality. I don't know who the heck wanted to marry Carter, of all people, but you can do it in this game! A big component of this game, too, is you have to find a bunch of freaking harvest sprites, which was both an interesting idea and annoying as heck. But the memories and days spent doing that, trying to figure out how to make all of Sky's favorite things so I could marry this Phantom Thief, looking up his hard events, and also having a moral dilemma between him and going with my OG love Cliff. There's a lot of memories involved in this game, which that's why it kind of makes it my favorite. I do think between all of the Harvest Moon games on the DS that I've played, because I still do not have the original Grand Bazaar, the remake is coming out very, very soon, but I don't have the original Grand Bazaar on the DS. I still think Sunshine Islands would probably be the better, more polished DS Harvest Moon game? I don't know. I can't remember my ranking in my Harvest Moon video, which is kind of sad, because that's like my most popular video on the channel. This game is what also made me discover fanfiction.net, which opened a whole other can of worms in my young life. Another huge one, Pokemon Diamond. This is another one where I think people would be like, why not Pokemon Platinum? Why not Black and White 2? And like, I love those games, don't get me wrong. But Diamond, I have spent so many hours of my life playing this game that the save file on this is still my original save file because I can't get rid of it. I just can't. There's too many memories associated with it for me to ever get rid of my save file on Diamond. This was one of the games that truly set the tone of the DS era for me. I was going over to a friend's house, we were playing in the underground, we were battling Pokemon together. It inspired real life moments of play because we just loved the story of Diamond and Pearl so much, and we loved Sinnoh, and we loved all of it. Looking back, is it the best Pokemon game of all time? No, it's not even my favorite. Emerald is still my favorite, 100%. But this game was the DS game for me. I'm kind of surprised I'm not putting it number one, but then when I look at the other two, I'm like, it's a really hard decision. Honestly, they're all great, but this was an era-defining game for me, and I think a lot of people, you could look at like Mario Kart DS as like one of the best multiplayer experiences on the DS, and you'd be right, but I didn't grow up having Mario Kart DS. I always had to DS download play and be a Shy Guy, and I mean, that was fine. I love Shy Guy. Shy Guy is like my main. But at the time, I just felt left out and I didn't have it. But so this was like crazy to me. The amount of hype leading up to Diamond and Pearl 2 was insane. I loved all of the advertising for it. I loved speculating the different Pokemon. Like, I predicted Leafeon. I drew a picture of an evolution that I wanted, and it was Leafeon, and I named it Leafeon. It didn't look like Leafeon. I couldn't draw for anything as a child, but I was just so excited for Diamond and Pearl. And then when it finally came out, finally had it in my hands. I was playing it with all of my friends. I was exploring this new world that at the time felt huge to me, especially going from the Hoenn region to the Sinnoh region. It felt ginormous. So yeah, this is a really special game for me, and it always will be. I will never get rid of the save file, ever. It will stay like this. If I ever want to play Gen 4, I have Pearl, I have Platinum, and I do not care about restarting those games as much as I need, but this is like a relic to me. This is so important. So yeah, I love Pokemon Diamond so much. But the only other Pokemon game that edges that out is a Pokemon spin-off. And I've talked about this game and how much I love it before. And this was also a fanfic-inspiring game of mine. Pokemon Rangers Shadows of Almia. I was a big Pokemon Ranger supporter, as dumb as those games actually kind of are in terms of gameplay. I didn't care. I thought they were so fun. More games that really utilize the touchscreen of the DS, because what you're doing is you are drawing circles around Pokemon in order to catch them. Not in the same way that you would catch them in Diamond or Pearl, but in order to save them from the evils plaguing their mind. That's the worst description I could ever give. But it's kind of true, actually. But especially in Shadows of Almia, this one had so much bigger of a story than the first Pokemon Ranger game, which again is still a great game, but when I look at all three of the Pokemon Ranger games, this one stands tall amongst the other two. The story in this game is great. The writing is hilarious. There's so many moments where you're just kind of going like, how is this happening? You also get way more partner Pokemon to choose from, so you can use them for different things. And ultimately, yeah, the story is fun. I wrote a whole fan fiction about these characters. And they're not even like super in-depth characters, but to me, they were. I was like, these guys are my everything. There were love triangles, everything. Maybe someday I will share said fan fiction. It's still on the internet. I'm not telling anyone where to find it, but it does still exist. But yeah, Shadows of Almia, I will still replay this every few years just because it makes me giggle so freaking much. That, yeah, I absolutely adore this game. It's one of my favorites that still brings me joy even in my late 20s. And the final game I have to talk about, I could have talked about any game in this series and it would have been just as good. But this is the one that means the most to me. And I've talked about it on the channel before, so you might be able to guess. Professor Layton and the Diabolical Box. It is no secret that I love the Professor Layton series, one of my favorite video game series of all time, but Diabolical Box specifically holds a special place in my heart due to some memories with my grandpa who passed away. And we played through the first game together. That was really special. It was so fun solving puzzles together, and we were able to play through this one. And this game specifically has some pretty strong themes involving like grandparent relationships, so I don't want to spoil anything because these games are so much better played by yourself. But it ended up being a really, really special game to me, especially after he passed. So, but more than that, this is just a great freaking game. If you love puzzles, if you are or are not familiar with Professor Layton and Luke, or just how the Layton game series work in terms of their stories and their characters, like, I mean, this is fantastic. Some of the puzzles in this game are still hard to this day and take me a minute to kind of figure out. But that's kind of the fun of it, is like trying to figure out the solution to the puzzles, finding more puzzles that maybe you didn't experience the first time around. It's great. It's super great. And the characters in this one are fantastic. You have some returning characters from Curious Village, and it expands on them quite a bit in this one, but you also have a lot of new characters specific to this story that are just so good. They're just so good, and the story just comes together in a completely nonsensical way, but I don't mind that. I don't mind that whatsoever. It's a satisfying conclusion, and yeah, it's just great. I cannot say enough, if you haven't played Professor Layton, do yourself a favor, give it a go. Even if you're not like a puzzle person, just try it. Just try it and see how you like it. But I'm such a big fan of Diabolical Box in particular that it had to be my number one. Those were 10 of my absolute favorite Nintendo DS games. I love this console so much. It's a console I'm still collecting for to this day, and it's my second biggest collection next to my Switch collection, by quite a bit still, but regardless, I love the DS. I love buying DS games, and I love all of the memories I have associated with the console. It was truly the time of my childhood where, and this might sound a little silly, but I was really coming into my own as a gamer. I was picking out games that I wanted, even if they were Nicktoons Battle for Volcano Island. I didn't always make the best decisions, you know, it happened. But it was really the first time that I was cultivating my own collection. Even if I didn't totally think of it in that way at that time, it was my console, and they were my games, and it was really special in a way that even with my Game Boy Advance, I didn't feel the same. It's just because I knew so many more people that had a DS that it felt like a very unifying kind of communal experience almost. We were always trading games, talking about Pokemon or Mario or anything like that, bringing our DSs on like the 5th grade Mackinac Island trip to play PictoChat on the way there. It's just, this console holds so many memories for me, and the games themselves are such a big part of that, honestly. So, I don't know. If you're feeling just as nostalgic as I am, maybe pull out your DS, dust it off a little bit, and put in your favorite DS game, just for fun. I think a lot of people get caught up in the need to be playing the latest and greatest thing, and that's fine, but sometimes it's nice to take a step back and play some classic favorites as well. But that's gonna do it for me because I am sweating to death in here, and I need to edit my first video in like a month, so who knows if I'll remember how to do that. But if you liked this trip down memory lane, maybe consider giving the video a thumbs up. I'd super appreciate it. And if you like the vibes, you like the nostalgic vibes, come hang out. Subscribe if you're not subscribed, maybe. It'll be fun, I hope. That's gonna do it for me. I will see you all in the next one, which this time won't be so far away. Goodbye!